So I'm here with Shelley Hitz, who is a huge advocate for authors and runs tons of collaborative events. What are some problems or a problem that you see in the collaboration space? And what are some tips that you have to avoid or overcome them?
I think one of the problems, especially for authors, is waiting for the invitation to come instead of initiating a connection. And so I think sometimes authors are like, oh, I want these opportunities and I want to be interviewed and on podcasts and doing these things, and yet just sitting and waiting for those opportunities to come to them instead of putting together a plan and initiating them themselves.
What's involved with the plan?
For me, I work mostly with faith-based authors, so I always recommend starting in prayer. If you're not faith-based, realizing like, what is the goal that you have? What is it that you really want to accomplish with this? And then who is it that you would really want to be working with? Not just what's in it for me, but do I really enjoy this person? That's going to make the collaboration even better than just forcing yourself, to connect with people just because it might be quote unquote good for, your business or your book or, whatever else you're doing, but really just sitting down and brainstorming and doing a brain dump. We call them business meetings with God. You're just writing out all the things. The main things is, what is your goal and who is it that you really want to work with? That way you can know that as you start to put together a list of people that you could potentially contact.
What's different about the way you do it and how can others implement it?
I started collaborations way back in the day when I was first starting my online business. I just really wasn't afraid to reach out to some of the big names. My very first collaborative event, I think it was maybe 2012, so 10 years ago, and it was a Facebook marketing for authors telesummit. Do you remember telesummits?
Mm-hmm.
I, at the time, was a no one in the space. Nobody knew about me. I had a website, but I wasn't afraid to reach out to all the people who had the bigger platforms at that time. You know what was amazing is they almost all said yes. And that was how I first grew my whole business, helping to mentor writers by hosting that event, not being afraid because nobody knew who I was, and reaching out to the big names. I think just taking those steps and taking the action even when it feels a little bit scary. I don't know if that's different. I just think that's something that I do regularly, and that has really helped grow my business.
Do you have a tip for something to Google or just a starting point for information on how to do it?
Success leaves clues. I was part of a program called Summit in a Box, and I was able to, follow their system, their templates, all of those things. So when you're able to follow someone that has done what you want to do, you're going to save your time a lot. What I like to do is I will create kind of like a project plan, and it's almost like you have a project manager. And so there's like the steps of, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. This is the order that you need to do it in, that I recommend. And then I have a spreadsheet or Excel or something that you can kind of keep track of your results and your actions. What do you say? How do you even start these collaborations? And so you don't have to learn from me. There's so many people out there teaching this. I think if you want to shortcut your time and increase your success, it's really helpful to connect with someone who's done this and not start from scratch.
Who would you consider your dream collaboration partner?
I think it's someone who really serves my similar audience and they have incredible value to share. My last summit was on collaborations. Typically, it's somebody who is faith-based and who serves my audience. And to be honest, I've gotten burned several times with collaborations. And so now I'm not looking for the person with the biggest audience, to be honest. I'm looking for someone who is real, authentic, who I connect with, and who will actually promote the thing we're doing together. I've hosted 3 conferences in the last year and a half. There have been a few people that came and they had huge audiences that would have been similar to mine, but they just didn't promote. And they even signed contracts saying they would promote. And that really is hard, to be a good collaboration, and then it doesn't. So my dream partner is someone who has the heart, they do have the audience, but they will actually follow through and do their part of it as well. If there's somebody else that I could invite that has a smaller audience, but that we connect with more and that would really promote the event, I would choose them over the one with the bigger audience. And so at this point in my career, I'm not about like the big names. I'm not about, they have to have this amount of email list or they have to have this thing. I just encourage anyone listening, don't be afraid of reaching out to someone who seems to have a small audience. Sometimes they might have a very engaged audience.
Okay, how would you define a good collaboration?
It's a win-win-win, right? It's a win for you. It's a win for them. It's a win for your audiences. I think that's the most ideal type of a collaboration. You both participate. So it's not a one-way thing. There's all different ways to collaborate, and sometimes it's more even than others. As long as everyone wins in the end, it's a good collaboration for me.
Is there a particular story that you could share about how a collaboration with someone has transformed your business or your life?
There's been so many that I could share, but when I was first getting started marketing our books, I would do group promotions. But I would host this, and then everyone would lower their book to like 99 cents or maybe do a free KDP promo. And all the authors would get featured on a page. There would be a giveaway, usually an Amazon gift card. And then we would all put together our promotion energy for a certain amount of time, usually 2 to 3 days. And those were so fun. Like, it was just the early days of just being scrappy, right? Of just like doing the thing and just taking the risk and reaching out. And I just had so much fun with it. But I also had some of my biggest book launches. I launched one of my books. It was kind of like a spontaneous thing, and it was just gathering all the people and just coming up with ideas. And so I think one of the things I want to say is like just to have fun with it too, not to be so serious about it. Another collaboration in a different way that really did change the whole trajectory of my business was I went to a in-person mastermind, and it was with women. It was at the beach, so that was fun. But I met somebody there that we just connected. There's certain people that you just click with, and we just connected. And so we stayed connected afterwards. She was further along on the journey than I was in business, and I was really struggling at the time. And she offered to help me out. So she brought me onto their podcast for a coaching session. They were doing these coaching sessions on their podcast. She was the one that gave me the idea, instead of just having a product, to launch a membership. Her and her husband gave me the exact ideas and plan on that podcast when I was interviewed. That's what I'm doing today is Christian Book Academy. 7.5 years later, I still have that membership. It's, how we pay our bills. And if I wouldn't have made that connection with her and then collaborated with her by being on her podcast and, getting coaching from her and all the things, it's like sometimes just these relationships that you form, at different events or different things can change the whole trajectory of your career. And that's what happened to me at that event. I think even 2017, I was going to more live events, and there were a few key relationships that I met there that really helped our business to grow.
So I would love to just open up the floor and ask you if you have any advice about absolutely anything that you'd like to share.
I just encourage you not to give up. It's so easy to want to collaborate, and maybe someone says no, or maybe it just seems too hard, or, it's like there's nobody that is in my niche or whatever. Just keep going, because there is a place for you. And then when you are seeking out collaborations, especially if you're an author, most of us are introverted. I am as well. Don't try to shove a round peg into a square hole. Don't try to do it exactly like some other extroverted business owner does it. Do it the way that feels good to you. And I'm realizing that for myself too. Like, my next event is going to look different. It's going to be different because the last one exhausted me. I'm changing too. And so don't be afraid to do things a little differently that will work well with who you are, your personality, your gifts. A collaboration doesn't have to look one way. So you can do it your way, and you can make it work no matter what personality you have. Introverts actually make great networking people because you can form really deep relationships. Don't be afraid to do it your way, but then don't give up too soon, because there is power in this. And it's one of the quickest ways, without having to spend a ton of money in ads, to really see, momentum in whatever you're doing. Thank you so much for having me. And I just love all that you're doing.